Peter Mark Roget, UK, US, January 18, 1779 to September 12, 1869, was a British physician, natural theologian, lexicographer, and founding secretary of the Portico Library. He is best known for publishing, in 1852, the Thesaurus of English Words and Phrases, a classified collection of related words. He also submitted a paper to the Royal Society documenting the phi phenomenon in 1824. Peter Mark Roget was born in London, the son of John Roget, 1751 to 1783, a Jean Van Cleric, and his wife Catherine Romilly, sister of Samuel Romilly. After his father's death, the family moved to Edinburgh in 1793, and he shortly began to study medicine at the University of Edinburgh, graduating in 1798. Samuel Romilly, who had supported his education, also introduced Roget into Wynne's social circles. Roget then attended lectures at London medical schools. Living in Clifton, Bristol from 1798 to 1799, he knew Thomas Beddoes and Humphrey Davy, and frequented the Pneumatic Institute. Not making a quick start to a medical career, Roget in 1802 took a position as a tutor to the sons of John Lee Phillips, with whom he began a grand tour, during the Peace of Amiens, traveling with a friend Lavelle Edgeworth, son of Richard Lavelle Edgeworth. When the peace abruptly ended, he was detained as a prisoner in Geneva. He was able to bring his pupils back to England in late 1803, but Edgeworth was held in captivity until Napoleon's fall. Roget became, with help from Samuel Romilly, private physician to William Petty, 1st Marquess of Lansdowne, who died in 1805. He then succeeded Thomas Percival at Manchester Infirmary, and began to lecture on physiology. He moved to London in 1808, and in 1809 became a licentiate of the Royal College of Physicians. After an extended period of dispensary work and lecturing, in particular at the Russell Institution and Royal Institution, he was taken onto the staff of the Queen Charlotte Hospital in 1817. He also lectured at the London Institution in the Windmill Street School. Sir Samuel Romilly committed suicide, dying in Roget's presence, in 1818. Roget had been called in as advisor by the family, following the death of Lady Romilly. In 1823, Roget and Peter Mere Latham were brought in to investigate disease at Millbank Penitentiary. In 1828, Roget, with William Thomas Brandy and Thomas Telford, submitted a report on London's water supply. In 1834, he became the first Fullerian professor of physiology at the Royal Institution. One of those who helped found the University of London in 1837, he was an examiner in physiology there. He gave up medical practice in 1840. Roget in later life became deaf, and was cared for by his daughter Kate. He died while on holiday in West Malvern, Worcestershire, aged 90, and is buried there in the cemetery of St. James's Church. Roget retired from professional life in 1840, and by 1846 was working on the book that perpetuates his memory today. It has been claimed that Roget struggled with depression for most of his life, and that the Thesaurus arose partly from an effort to battle it. A biographer stated that his obsession with list-making as a coping mechanism was well established by the time Roget was 8 years old. In 1805, he began to maintain a notebook classification scheme for words, organized by meaning. During this period he also moved to Manchester, where he became the first secretary of the Portico Library. The catalogue of words was first printed in 1852, titled Thesaurus of English Words and Phrases, classified and arranged so as to facilitate the expression of ideas and assist in literary composition. During Roget's lifetime the work had 28 printings. After his death it was revised and expanded by his son, John Louis Roget, 1828 to 1908, and later by John's son, the engineer Samuel Romilly Roget, 1875 to 1953. Roget was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society in 1815, in recognition of a paper on a slide rule with a log scale. He was a secretary of the Society from 1827 to 1848. On December 9, 1824, Roget presented a paper on a peculiar optical illusion to the Philosophical Transactions, which was published in 1825, as explanation of an optical deception in the appearance of the spokes of a wheel when seen through vertical apertures. The paper was noted by Michael Faraday and by Joseph Plateau, who both mentioned it in their articles that presented new illusions with apparent motion. It has often been heralded as the basis for the persistence of vision theory, which has for a long time been falsely regarded as the principle causing the perception of motion in animation and film. In 1834, Roget claimed to have invented the phantasmoscope or phenakistoscope in the spring 1831, a few years before Plato introduced this first device that demonstrated stroboscopic animation. One of the promoters of the Medical and Chirurgical Society of London, which later became the Royal Society of Medicine, Roget was also a founder of the Society for the Diffusion of Useful Knowledge, writing a series of popular manuals for it. He wrote numerous papers on physiology and health, among them the fifth Bridgewater Treatise, Animal and Vegetable Physiology Considered with Reference to Natural Theology, 1834, and articles for the Encyclopaedia Britannica. He was hostile to phrenology, writing against it in a Britannica supplement in 1818, and devoting a 2-volume work to it, 1838. A chess player. In an article in the London and Edinburgh Philosophical Magazine, Roget solved the general open knight's tour problem. He composed chess problems and designed an inexpensive pocket chessboard. Treatises on electricity, galvanism, magnetism, and electromagnetism. London, Baldwin and Craddock. 1832, LCCN 08007072. Animal and Vegetable Physiology Considered with Reference to Natural Theology. Bridgewater Treatises. I2. London, William Pickering. 2009 1834. ISBN 9781108000086. LCCN 06011266. Thesaurus of English Words and Phrases, 4th ed. London, Longman, Brown, Green, and Longmans. 1856. Canadian writer Keith Fraser published a story, Roget's Thesaurus, in 1982, which is narrated in Roget's voice. He has Roget speak on his wife's death from cancer. Roget also appears in Sheila Stevenson's An Experiment with an Air Pump, set in 1799, as the only historical character. The play takes place in the fictional household of Joseph Fenwick, and Roget is one of Fenwick's assistants. A picture book biography of Roget entitled The Right Word, Roget and His Thesaurus was published by Eerdmans Books in 2014. It was named a Caldecott Honor Book for Excellence in Illustration and won the Siebert Medal for Excellence in Children's Nonfiction. In 1824, Roget married Mary Taylor, 1795 to 1833, daughter of Jonathan Hobson. They had a son, John Lewis, 1828 to 1908, and a daughter, Kate.